Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, of World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and Paul Volcker has died, and I want to go a little bit into a bit of his legacy because of course we talk about the Federal Reserve here at WAM a lot, and we've been talking about Paul Volcker a lot, and of course, you know, even friends of ours like Luke Radowski confronted Paul Volcker several years ago, and probably one of the most entertaining We Are Change confrontations regarding his attendance at Bilderberg Group, etc. But I want to mention this Business Insider article that says Paul Volcker, the towering former Fed chairman and economist, has died, age 92. And as the article says, just in the quick facts at the top, it says former Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker has died at age 92. Volcker served as Fed chair from 1979 until 1987, helping to rein in persistently high inflation and reset the economy from the 1970s. After his time as Fed chair, Volcker continued to serve in various capacities, including as a critical advisor to President Barack Obama during the financial crisis. Volcker is survived by his wife, 2 children, and 4 grandchildren. So a lot of people are calling Paul Volcker a legend, John. You know, a lot of people, when they think Paul Volcker, they think deflation. And I wanted you to kind of go into your thoughts on what really stands out to you about Paul Volcker and his life.
Well, Paul Volcker is, he actually has been involved in so much throughout history. He's probably one of the most important Federal Reserve chairs because he was, involved not as a Federal Reserve chair, but he was actually the undersecretary during the times when they actually went off gold during the Nixon administration between 69 and 74. So he played, a huge role in that decision to, withdraw gold from being actual monetary metal backing the IOU notes of the US dollar. Mm-hmm. And also he sat on the board of OPEC and OPIC, so OPIC and Fannie Mae as well throughout this time before he actually became the Federal Reserve chairman. Nice. Yeah, so he's been involved in, of course, being undersecretary of the United States Treasury. You are also in charge for the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which we've been covering in great detail here at World Alternative Media. You could look that up, the ESF video that I did, where I went into great detail. But he is, also one of the guys, and this is interesting. He seems to have been at the right places at the right times throughout history when the economy really got screwed. And of course, there's no, need to actually know that he was also one of the first ones to, during the 80s bubble, massive bubble of 80s to 82, he was one of the guys that, on the forefront pushing for the Plaza Accord and of course, push the United States forward into, being the world reserve currency. But on top of that, he also started to interfere into the economy and meddling around, which was the first time really a Federal Reserve chair has really done anything other than, just being there in existence. So he's known for so much, Josh, and his, the granddaddy of all this interventionism that we see today. Right. But interestingly enough, though, I believe it was a Council of Foreign Relations interview, which had a cutout piece where he talked very well about how great gold was, that he actually got, he was the undersecretary during that time when they took gold off as a standard in the United States to save the monetary system from collapsing because they'd printed too much currency. So this is interesting, Josh, isn't it? Like how he's always been at the right places at the right time.
It is certainly interesting, John. I mean, considering also, Alan Greenspan has been very pro-gold and actually pro-decentralization, but he was at the helm of the Federal Reserve, this massive cartel behemoth of centralization. Paul Volcker stood as a giant at 6'7". Obviously, he towered over basically everyone. Now, look, I'll get further into the downsides of this in a second, but I want to note that as much as I despise what he did and what he was involved in. I have to say, people, I've been seeing a lot of comments, well, good, glad to see him gone, good riddance. And honestly, from my personal perspective, these central banks impoverish humanity. They create vast poverty, and then they come in as a solution, Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution, repeat, and all fiat currencies eventually revert to zero. With that said, he might be gone, but that system is still there, and it's more ominous than ever before, and it's constantly growing, and it's getting larger and getting more destructive and more terrible by the day. So regardless of all these people, all these heads, I mean, at the end of the day, they're kind of puppets. They might have some control, but they're kind of puppets. The system remains, and the system is what we need to abolish, not calling for people to die. But with that said, John, going into something I think is important is, what do you think is a downside, the greatest downside to the legacy of Paul Volcker?
Well, the greatest downside of his legacy is, what he created with the actual interventionism that he started with the Federal Reserve, and that has really, been brought upon together with, especially guys like Ben Bernanke. Ben Bernanke is probably one of the guys that really, pushed forward the Volcker agenda, and really just pure manipulation.
It's called the Volcker rule, as they call it.
Yeah, and in of course 2002, Ben Bernanke talked about this great intervention that we should just buy any assets possible. If we have a massive enough crisis, we just buy whatever we can. And that's what you see in Japan. Basically, Ben Bernanke must have, inspired a Bank of Japan, which owns, so many different assets right now. And their economy is garbage and seems to be going down again. So there's nothing, but yeah. So again, Volcker has to be known as the guy that, was a part, even though he wasn't the Fed chair, he had a huge part of taking together with, the Treasury Secretary, being the under Treasury Secretary, the second in command, to take U.S. off the gold standard back in the 70s, Josh. And I think that's really is probably the biggest thing that he did. Not even mentioning, the Fed interventionism that he's created, but that I think that was the biggest thing by far that he did when he took, they went full fiat, and of course that was the start of the death of the U.S. dollar, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, he was involved in a massive crime syndicate, and I have absolutely no respect for him as an individual. But with that said, my thoughts are with his family. Obviously, it's not. I don't think death is ever good. In fact, when it comes to, for example, punishment for doing terrible things to humanity, I think it's better that people are alive to deal with it and not be able to sleep at night. I think that's a far greater punishment than death any day. But with that said, obviously, a lot of people, even libertarians, have respect for Paul Volcker, mostly because of his connection with Reagan. Obviously, you have to look deeper into the story, though, when it comes to that. Obviously, the Federal Reserve is a horrible cancer on humanity, and it needs to be ended. So anyway, I appreciate you joining us today, John, to talk about this in short. I don't want to get too far into it because it'll just go down a crazy rabbit hole. We got more reports to do. But with that said, everyone check out our new Teespring store. You can get shirts like our new shirt, the Fed. It's a new updated version of the Bernanke shirt from 10 years ago, now with Jerome Powell on it. And we got many things, and the Fed. We got lots of different shirts and lots of different merchandise.
F word, Josh?
With an asterisk.
Fed?
Oh, yeah, that is a terrible F word. I should be bleeping that part out. Anyway, I appreciate you joining us today, John. Make sure to join us at float.app. Make sure to check out our Subscribe Star, our Patreon, all that kind of stuff to help fund us through the new year, because obviously YouTube's cracking down pretty hard right now, and we got very limited time left here on this platform. So anyway, until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson with John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change. Like what you see here at Wham, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We cannot do it without you guys. Every donation is extremely, extremely appreciated, as we're getting incredibly shadow banned. We've lost 80% of our audience since January of 2019 and counting. They are ripping us apart here on YouTube, and the only thing we could do in the meantime as we prepare for the next big step is to ask for help from the viewers that support our free information that we try to post on a daily basis. You can also find us on Subscribe Star, where just $1 a month, that's all it takes, $1 a month is all it takes to truly make a huge difference. If everyone gave $1 a month, it would change everything for independent media, and we could win this information war, and we can defeat the mainstream medias eventually. And of course, on Subscribestar, we post subscriber-only content that you'll only see on Subscribestar. So make sure to pledge there, become a Patreon. That makes a huge difference, guys. And also, don't forget to check out our Bitcoin address below in the comments and description, as well as on the screen for you to scan, if you please. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on the alternatives. We will likely be deleted by YouTube in the next 2 years. It's already happening on a vast scale, so make sure to find us on float.app. That's flote.app. At Josh Sigurdson, as well as at WAM, W-A-M. Float.app is replacing every social media, and I mean, it's just incredible the opportunities it provides for not just creators, but for the average person who wants to get away from these nannies telling them what they can or cannot see. They plan to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon. You could subscribe to us on Float and pledge with cryptocurrency. It's really innovative. We are also on BitChute at World Alternative Media, as well as so many others, Minds, PocketNet. You can find us at World Alternative Media on Instagram. There's many options. And finally, don't forget to join us at Anarchapulco 2020, the famous event, the best liberty event known to mankind, other than perhaps Anarcho Vegas 2020. There are 2 major events coming up that we are extremely excited about, and you can use promo code WAM, that's W-A-M, and save 10% on your tickets to these legendary conferences. There's so many amazing people speaking there. You won't want to miss it. So make sure to support in any way you can, even if it's just sharing our videos, pressing like, pressing to be notified. Anything helps, folks. You are the change you wish to see. Thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.